Hello, everyone. Today we are going to be talking about this man, Timothy Pool. Um, why? Tim Pool annoys me. Um, Tim Pool is a, a journalist, an alternative news journalist who got started, I believe, covering Occupy Wall Street and has done things like travel to Sweden to cover the no-go zones that, by his own admission, do not exist. And he's become a darling of the enlightened centrist slash center right of this country. He's also a moron, an inept buffoon, completely incapable of processing news and information without the most laughable bias. And, why don't I let him speak for himself? Because Tim Pool is one of the many men pulling off the classical liberal con job. Obviously, the first person of this that we can really thank is Dave Rubin, and Tim Pool swiftly followed. I don't know Tim Pool's politics before 2016, when I first became aware of him. As far as I am aware, he was a journalist and not a pundit. And now, of course, he is exactly the opposite. He has a podcast, among other things, and he's constantly on, the Rubin Report, the Louder with Crowder. Occasionally, he does interviews with people like David Pakman, but as you can see by this title, um, his liberal cred has been straining for a long time now. For a long time. I mean, as soon as I was aware of him, he was all of it. Like, if you knew your politics, you could tell that he was not a liberal. But now it's becoming more like mask off. Long setup for an already long video, so guys, let's get into it. I am excited is not the right word. Let's just get into it.
President Donald Trump is on track for a re-election victory and potentially a landslide, partly due to the riots, but there are some reasons to believe he might not win, notably the mail-in voting fiasco. Now, Trump is warning of fraud, but inaccuracy is extremely likely. Lawsuits are extremely likely, and I think
20 seconds in, and I have a lot of problems. So when he said Trump might not win because of the mailing fiasco, I thought he was referring to the fact that Donald Trump was trying to defund the post office to suppress votes. I thought he was talking about that fiasco, but no, he's talking about the 0.00001% of likelihood of voter fraud. That's what he's talking about. Mail-in voting is something we've had since the Civil War, and you cannot be in favor of absentee voting and not mail-in voting because they are the same fucking thing.
the whole process may be delayed, backed up, and it's going to get a bit nuts. But if we go just on the current polls, although Donald Trump is not leading nationally, the national vote doesn't matter that much. What matters are battleground statistics. And according to a CNN poll recently, Donald Trump is within 1 point of Joe Biden in 15 battleground states, and their poll had a margin of error of 4%, meaning Donald Trump may be winning. But another poll recently came out.
Yeah, so Tim Pool has a point here, right? And this is something that Democrats are warning about. I mean, Biden is losing his foothold in many battleground areas. I mean, it depends on the poll, right? So if we want to take a quick look, Joe Biden 2020, let's look at Wisconsin. So Wisconsin, well, okay, in Wisconsin, for example, Biden is leading by a Fox News poll. He's leading by 8, by a CNBC poll by 5. I don't know who these people are, but the accumulated data shows that Biden is leading in Wisconsin. We can try Michigan. and this is recent. This is, well, the Fox one is must have been taken just a day or two ago, which is insane. Now, it'd be really shocking to see Joe Biden lose Michigan because he kind of helped save the auto industry. Okay, so, oh, well, I don't know when Tim Pool posted this, but it's looking a little better for Biden than Tim Pool's making it out. I mean, he said 15 states, but Wisconsin and Michigan are definitely ones that Democrats should be focusing on. But regardless, let's get back to the video. I agree. There is a very huge chance that Trump could win. There's definitely a strategy he could play if he can stop killing people.
Showing Donald Trump leading among independent voters with 10%, and that's huge. Amid all of this, something interesting is happening. The Democrats seem to be in complete disarray, and the GOP has announced no new 2020 platform. Why? They're going to be enthusiastically supporting Trump's agenda.
Whoa, okay. He said the Democrats are in disarray, but the GOP is the party that doesn't have a platform. Like, I thought he was talking about the Democrats still for a second. Why? How did you lump those two things in? I mean, the Democrats, we could be doing better, but I think under the circumstances, I think we're doing better in 2016 in terms of party unity, and at least we have a fucking platform.
That's right. The GOP is being crushed the same as the Democrats. I've never been a big fan of the Republicans, but here I am looking at Donald Trump's second term agenda list and saying, it actually makes a ton of sense. I really like it. In fact, I think most rational Americans would look at Donald Trump's agenda list for his second term and say, it looks pretty good. Notably, draining the swamp, congressional term limits, among
So Paul Manafort, who got arrested like a year ago, is at the time he was the latest of 5 Trump advisors to have been convicted of a crime. That was a year ago. We are just coming off of Steve Bannon being arrested. Trump just pardoned Roger Stone. Guys, don't lie to me. Don't lie to me, Tim. Don't tell me that you think he can drain the swamp. He had 4 years to do this. This was one of his main promises in 2016. There's no possible way you can tell me that he's delivered on this promise at all. But Tim is going to act like the past 4 years of Trump never happened. Or at least that Trump didn't make the mistakes he made. So I don't even know what the point is of pointing this shit out. I mean, it's not like Tim can hear me. But he's got to know. Like, somebody who has even a casual knowledge of current events has to know that Donald Trump he has one of the most corrupt administrations of recent memory. Right? Like, this is a thing we can agree on. Whether or not you like the wall idea, or if you like the Muslim ban idea, you can agree that Donald Trump is not running a meritocracy over there in Washington.
many other things. I actually kind of like it. So let's take a look at these stories. Why aren't the GOP putting out any new party platform? Well, many of these old crony Republicans were shoved out by Donald Trump, went running to the Democrats. Many of them are endorsing Joe Biden. You see, Donald Trump's reelection.
What are you talking about, John Kasich? Or what? I mean, the GOP leadership has not been shoved out. Mitch McConnell's still there, right? I mean, Kevin McCarthy is still there. Who of the establishment, of the leading establishment of the Republican Party, has Trump gotten rid of? And it's like, I mean, he got rid of James Comey. He fired James Comey. All right. Is that him draining the swamp?
election isn't just about him and his agenda. It's about finally crushing the establishment politics of the past several decades and bringing about something entirely different. Of course, many of these leftists and Democrats would claim it's fascism. It's not. But I do take issue with some of Trump's agenda, some of the items on his agenda list. But let's take a look at it. And I'm going to tell you this. Based on what he's put out, I'm actually fairly excited to see what Donald Trump can pull off if he does get reelected. So let's
see what he can pull off. I remember hearing that back in 2016. I remember hearing, it's going to be weird, but maybe he can really change things. Maybe he can really make things different. I mean, maybe we did need an outsider to really shake up Washington. No one person is ever going to change Washington culture. No one president can change the lobbying industry, can change campaign finance systems. It has to be more systematic than that. So I take umbrage with the idea that any one person could do it. Like Donald Trump, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, none of them can do it alone. But with Trump, it's particularly obvious that he has no actual interest of doing so. So tell me, Tim, what exciting things can Donald Trump reasonably pull off that he didn't pull off in his previous term, half of which he had complete control of the House and the Senate?
Look at what's going on with the GOP and Trump. But first, let's break down Trump's second term agenda, now that I've said it 50 million times. Before we get started, however, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There's many ways you can give, but the best thing you can do, subscribe to this channel. About half the people who watch my videos aren't subscribed.
I agree. The best thing you can do is subscribe to my channel. I'm going to get that Wesley Wabbit.
That means you're less likely to see my videos when they go live every day at 4 p.m. So just below the video player is a little red button that says subscribe. Give it a tap or a click, and now you're more likely to get my videos. But also, hit the like button, the notification bell, and if you really want to help me out, share this video to help spread the word if you think I'm doing a good enough job. Here's a story from Town Hall. Ahead of RNC kickoff, President Trump releases his second term agenda. I apologize that I've already said second term agenda about 500 times. But we'll go through the list. Now I want to show you what Trump is going to be putting forward for his reelection campaign. They say, ahead of the 2020 RNC convention, which will take place digitally and in Charlotte, North Carolina, President Trump has released his agenda for a second term in the White House. Take a look below, courtesy of the Trump campaign. First, President Trump says he's fighting for you, and he wants to fight for jobs. He wants to create 10 million new jobs in 10 months. That's, of course, a good thing. I think anybody would agree. Can he pull it off? I think so. His first term, he did a pretty good job on the economy. I'm confident he'd be able to pull this off as well. He wants to create...
Donald Trump created less jobs in his first 3 years than Obama did in his last 3 years. Again, he had control of the Congress, of both chambers of Congress for 2 years. He passed an entirely new tax bill. Did that create 10 million new jobs?
1 million new small businesses. Well, that's going to require a cultural shift, but I believe it's also possible, especially considering COVID devastated many small businesses, shutting them down permanently. I believe Trump can make this happen.
What?
He wants to cut tax.
Well, if small businesses are doing work, I mean, are you saying it's easier because there are less small businesses? Because there are less small businesses now? I mean, we are, God damn it, Tim. Trickle-down economics, which has been the economic policy of the Trump administration, doesn't help small businesses. It helps corporations. It helps huge industries. You can't be pro-big business and small business at the same time, because they are in direct competition with one another. And Trump, unless he completely redefines his tax policy, is not going to create an economy that benefits small businesses over large ones.
Taxes to boost take-home pay and keep jobs in America. While typically I'm not a big fan of just generic tax cuts, I think they need a purpose, and I'm not a fan of generic tax increases either, like we're seeing from Biden. I would say right now, because of the devastation to our economy, it's a smart play to cut taxes.
What do you mean generic tax increase? First off, the deficit is blowing up. Do you care about the deficit, Tim? The deficit blew up under Trump's tax bill. So we are going to need more revenue if we're not going to let the deficit continue getting out of hand. Now, that depends on how much of a deficit hawk you are. I imagine that Tim is going to make several arguments against Joe Biden, saying, well, that's going to cost too much. That's going to add to the deficit.
It just is. He wants to enact fair trade deals that protect American jobs.
Also, how is a tax cut going to help people when they're unemployed? We need a stimulus bill. We need Keynesian economics here. Maybe universal basic income. We need a safety net for people while this countries in free fall economically. FDR didn't come along in the Great Depression and promise people tax cuts. Tax cuts don't really do much when you don't have income.
American jobs is a good thing. Made in America tax credits. I believe that's also a good thing. We want more jobs, more manufacturing in the US. Expanding opportunity zones. This is good as well. Opportunity zones, that, for those that aren't familiar, are economically embattled areas. And by creating tax incentives, they encourage businesses to come in and develop in areas that will help restore the economy and generally increase the quality of life for people who live there. Now, of course, I think the left would say that's going to gentrify the neighborhoods for sure, but I agree. And he wants to continue.
The cool thing about reacting to Tim Pool is that he actually makes your arguments for you and then he doesn't even make a counter argument. Like, you heard the point. It's going to it's not going to help economically devastated people. It's just going to gentrify the communities by bringing in businesses. There's no direct stimulus to the communities themselves. There's no investment in infrastructure, education, none of that. And by Tim Pool's own admission, that's not going to really help the people. It's going to gentrify the neighborhoods. But he just gives you that really charming Tim Pool smile, and he says, well, it's still a good thing. It's still fine.
Continued deregulatory agenda for energy independence. Now, this, I believe, has a lot to do with fossil fuels and things of that nature. While I've not been the biggest fan, I just got to say, look, I'm somebody who's been traditionally liberal. I'm looking at a lot of these things. We'll keep going through the list. And I got to say, at a time like now, with this crisis and with COVID and with our economy being so devastated, I don't see a way around what Trump is proposing. We can't just ignore it and carry on like we did. We used to live in luxury. It was easy to say, yeah, we'll cut some of these things and focus on these things. It was easy when the economy was excellent. But now we got to focus on getting people back to work and helping people live. Of course, within his agenda, he wants to eradicate COVID-19, develop a vaccine by the end of 2020, return to normal by 2021, make all critical medicines and supplies for healthcare workers in the U.S., and refill stockpiles and prepare for future pandemics. All really good things.
Who's the person who's going to reform healthcare? Who's the person who's going to give us the public option, Tim? Who's the person who's going to actually give us relief? No, we can't carry on like we did. Trump tried to ignore the virus. He's been trying to get us back to normal as quickly as humanly possible. He's trying to force kids to go back to schools no matter the risk, no matter the fact that, by Betsy DeVos's own admission, thousands, if not millions, of children will die by their own statistics. Yes, we can't carry on like we did. So you're going to literally elect the man who got us in this situation in the first place. We can't carry on like we did, so let's vote for 4 more years of the same thing. Listen to how fucking stupid he is. Like, if there's a conservative argument to be made here, or if there's a pro-Trump argument to be made, it can't be pretending that he is still the outsider, that he is still outside the establishment. He's been president for 4 years. Well, 3 years.
He wants to end our reliance on China, bring back 1 million manufacturing jobs from China, tax credits for companies that bring back jobs from China, allow 100% expensing deductions for essential industries like pharmaceuticals and robotics who bring back their manufacturing to the U.S., no federal contracts for companies who outsource to China, hold China fully accountable for allowing the virus to spread around the world. Healthcare. He wants to cut prescription drug prices.
What kind of fucking platform is that? Hold China fully accountable. What does that mean? Are we going to make China pay for the devastation COVID had on the global economy? Well, Trump did get Mexico to pay for the wall, so I guess we can trust him to do that.
Put patients and doctors back in charge of our healthcare system, lower healthcare insurance premiums, end surprise billing, cover all pre-existing conditions, protect Social Security and Medicare, protect our veterans, and provide world-class health.
He's not going to protect Social Security and Medicare. You know who else wanted to cover all pre-existing conditions? Barack Obama, and he actually did that. He passed a bill. You might have heard of it that did just that, and Trump gutted it after trying and failing to officially repeal it with no official replacement.
Care and services. Of course, I think all of these things would be supported by the average person. Whether or not he can make them happen is a bigger issue. Now, when it comes to education, he wants to provide school choice for every child in America and teach American exceptionalism. I'm not super concerned about American exceptionalism, but school choice is huge. For those that don't know what this is, it means that if you live in a certain area, you have to pay taxes that go to those schools. Sometimes you'll see someone living in a district, but across the street is a much nicer district, so their kids can't go to that school, even though it may be closer. School choice means individuals perhaps get a voucher. This is the voucher program where you decide where to.
Yeah, from the Ben Shapiro School of Thought. whenever we bring up that education is so it's such poor quality in lower income neighborhoods, their solution is just to let the kids go somewhere else. Let the kids go somewhere else, completely flood another school district. I mean, that's what would, I mean, what parent would not choose to send their kid to the better school, right? So, yes, this would inevitably flood and overwhelm other schools. And it would not address the central issue here. It would not address the root problem, as so many of conservative propositions do. They do not solve the inherent problem. Oh, your school district is crumbling in its infrastructure and it has no funding. Okay, just send the kid somewhere else. Let that school decay. Let it rot. Just send the kid somewhere else.
Apply where to send that voucher, and your kid can go to that school. I actually really like school choice. But here's the best part: draining the swamp. I'm sorry it took this long to get here, but we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about the end of the GOP, the end of the Democrats, and here is how Trump will pull it off, or at least how he aims to. He wants to pass congressional term limits. You know, I am completely in favor of this. I've heard many arguments from people who say things like, if somebody wants to run and we want to elect them, then they should be allowed to do this. It's an argument against term limits. I thought about it. I disagree. Some have said you'll lose people like Rand Paul. He's awesome. Yeah, but it's okay because you'll also lose people like Nancy Pelosi. I believe we have way more do-nothing politicians in Congress and even in the executive office. Just
okay, ignoring the fact that he just called Rand Paul awesome. I mean, if you have a problem with Nancy Pelosi, I mean, I guess, term limits would get rid of her inevitably, but does that not mean that another Nancy Pelosi couldn't come along? That another corporatist who takes money from lobbyists and private interests, another one of her could come along? How many times do I have to say this? You're not addressing the root problem. What created Nancy Pelosi? What creates these people? It's not endless terms. And it doesn't make sense to me, the idea of term limits, because with any job, with any position, you obviously get better with experience. I mean, this certainly applies to a lot of presidents, but imagine having 30 plus years in the Senate. Ted Kennedy is one of the most accomplished and effective senators we've ever had. He served for 30 plus years and he used that entire career effectively. Yeah, you can say, well, it'd be worth it to lose Ted Kennedy because we could lose this other guy, but we're not creating an actual system that stops these people from becoming who they are. You know what I mean? Like, we're not actually changing the culture, because private interests will always be there. Campaign finance will always be there. Partisan interests will always be there. I guess if you're not worried about running again for another term, the idea is like, well, you'll stop caring. But people will always be looking ahead. You don't want to completely ruin yourself in front of your party. I mean, you will want to have future interest in that party. It's not like if you introduce term limits that people will go back to working at whatever job they had before. People are always going to keep moving forward, or at least you have to assume that they are interested in moving forward. People might want to run for a higher office, might want to run for president. So it's not like this completely cuts their ties to their own party. The only thing I can imagine is being the second term of a presidency where, I mean, there's nowhere like higher to go. So there is less incentive. Actually, the place with the least incentive is being a Supreme Court justice, which is a lifelong thing. There are no term limits there.
Like Joe Biden and stuff, we have way more do-nothings than we do passionate individuals who actually want to get in. And while it is possible that the party will just cycle their preferred crony politicians every two terms or whatever, I think it'll do more to get people into Congress and into office who are actually interested in being there, who are focused on serious issues. I am tired of the crony Chuck Schumers and Mitch McConnells and Joe Bidens and Nancy Pelosi's. I don't like any of them. There's a handful of people I really do like. It's more Republicans than Democrats because it's more to do with integrity than policy. But I've had enough. I think it's time to drain the swamp. And if Trump can get congressional term limits passed, I think it'd be fantastic. I'm not entirely convinced he can, however, because Congress has to vote on their own term limits, and they never do. Because our Congress, it's a swamp. It is a swamp. He also wants to end bureaucratic government bullying of U.S. citizens and small businesses, expose Washington's money trail and delicate...
I'm sorry, does Donald Trump want to end bullying? Okay, cool. cool.
delegate powers back to people and states. I love it. Drain the globalist swamp by taking on international organizations that hurt American citizens. Now, look, many of these proposals are relatively vague. But let me tell you something. Twitter, right now, consider this. A foreign citizen, I noticed this on Reddit. It's not just Twitter, it's Reddit, it's Facebook. I went to r/politics, and there was a post that said, Donald Trump is the worst. Donald Trump is awful. Orange man bad. And I went in and noticed a bunch of people who are European and Australian, and I got really, really angry. I am tired of being talked at by people who do not live in this country about what my opinions should be about who the president should be. And I am really angry that these big tech platforms will ban American citizens from speaking their mind about their own country. So what happens? Voters are influenced.
This is fucking sad, dude. You can't even handle a foreigner's opinion about how shitty the guy you're going to vote for is. You can't even fucking handle that. Yes, just as I will shit talk Boris Johnson, anybody in the world has the right to shit talk Donald Trump. Just as I have the right to shit talk Bolsonaro, they have the right to shit talk Donald Trump. They have the right to an opinion. If you don't like the opinion and you're mad that they used a global website to express it, how fucking free speech are you, Tim? How much? I guess that only applies to Americans. And any platform that incorporates foreign viewpoints. I mean, I don't know if you're advocating for the abolition of this, but it gets you so fucking angry that you're willing to vote for Donald Trump. That's how upset it made you, that you are going to vote for Donald Trump, who wants to take on international organizations that hurt American citizens.
Our media is influenced by big tech platforms that allow foreign individuals to express their opinions, but not American citizens. Now, I don't know if Trump can do anything about this. It's not necessarily in his agenda, but I want to see Section 230 reform. I want to see an end to the foreign influence in our elections. I do not care about the opinions of people in France, Canada.
What the fuck? Tim Pool just said to the camera with no irony that he thinks Donald Trump will be the person to stop foreign interference in our elections. I wasn't even going to bring up Russia, man, but you forced my hand, Tim. This is what you do. This is what Tim does. Oh my God.
Britain, Australia, New Zealand, or anywhere else. And that includes conservatives. I always thought it was particularly hilarious that we have so many Canadians interested in American politics. Now that I get, okay? Canada, you're right next to America, so you guys get a free pass. People in the UK, I can say, okay, a little bit. But why do we have British people and Australians and New Zealanders and French people and Spanish and Italians going on social media and complaining about our president? Now I get it, we're a very powerful
Because, oh, are you
country, but I'm sick of it. I'm sick of the foreign interference in what should be
Do you realize the damage an American president can do to world politics? I mean, you do know George Bush W. Bush was not that long ago. So you should be aware, Tim. You should be aware of just exactly like we're not just minding our own business. You get that, right? Like it's not like we're just trying to get by, figure shit out, and the rest of the world is bullying us. Like, ha, look at those fuck nuts. Don't even have universal health care. It's not. We interfere in the lives of so many people around the world. Yes, they get to have an opinion. You beanie had. Just gotta stare at this picture a little bit. Soothe the rage. All right, we're back.
American matters. I've never been a big fan of American foreign war, and that's another big issue that Donald Trump he's hitting the nail on the head with the hammer. So I'll tell you what, I like this agenda list, but I want to be critical of some stuff here. He goes on to say, defend our police, fully fund and hire more police and law enforcement officers. I do like this, but I want to make sure that reform is on that list. I understand not every cop is in favor of it, not every conservative or Democrat, but most people in this country are. And what that means is, when we fully fund and hire more officers, we do it in a way to make sure they're safer, that they're less likely to get hurt, that we can have more departments, social workers.
You're scared for the cops, huh? Scared for the cops. So when you said reform, not like reform, like let's try to see if we can get less black people killed or less white people. You know, cops do murder white people too, to be fair. That's not what you were talking about. You're talking about making them safer from us. cool.
Added to the list who can specialize in certain 911 calls, certain 311 calls. We don't need to send out a cop for every single minor infraction. And that means more funding, more training, and it means more accountability too. But if it can make cops feel safer, if it can make them feel more secure, then good. Increase criminal penalties for assaults on law enforcement officers. This I don't care about. Don't hit cops. Don't attack cops, okay? I've been wrongly arrested before twice. It is not fun. But you remain calm. You go through the motions. It's annoying. And then ultimately, you go through the paperwork and deal with it. It's not perfect. In fact, I hate it. But
what if the cops break into your house and you don't even know who the fuck they are? I mean, that's what happened to Breonna Taylor's boyfriend, right before Breonna Taylor got shot and killed by cops. What about then, Tim? Are you mad? Are we going to punish Breonna Taylor's boyfriend?
Don't attack cops. Prosecute drive-by shootings as acts of domestic terrorism. This I don't like. I don't like it at all. If a crime's a crime, a crime's a crime. Drive-bys are already illegal. You don't need a special provision on top of it. Okay. Bring violent extremist groups like Antifa to justice. Here, yes, 100%. Endless cash bail and keep dangerous.
Antifa's not a group, y'all. Just saying.
Criminals locked up until trial. For the most part, yes, I agree. I don't like the idea of a blanket statement on cashless bail. I believe there are certain circumstances where we should err on the side of freedom, but dangerous criminals should be locked up. I know, innocent until proven guilty, and that's the big challenge. But I don't know, danger? I typically err on the side of freedom over security, right? It is better that 10 guilty persons escape than one innocent person suffer. But we should also have a right to a speedy trial. So I believe along with any provision that removes cashless bail, we need to make sure that we have immediate hearings for this and trials as quickly as we can. End illegal immigration and protect American workers. Block illegal immigrants from becoming eligible for taxpayer-funded welfare, healthcare, and free college tuition. I agree. Mandatory deportation for non-citizen gang members. 100%. Dismantle human trafficking. Absolutely. End sanctuary cities to restore our neighborhoods and protect our families. Yes. Prohibit American companies from replacing U.S. citizens.
Tim. It's bad enough that he's locking up kids at the fucking border. Now cities don't even get to decide how they handle it for themselves. Because immigrants are just so dangerous. They're such a dangerous force to this country. They commit less crimes than we do.
Citizens with lower cost foreign workers. Agreed. Require new immigrants to be able to support themselves financially. Yes. Innovate for the future. Launch the Space Force. Establish permanent manned presence on the moon. And send the first manned mission to Mars. 100%. Build the world's greatest infrastructure system. I don't know what that means. Whatever. Win the race to 5G and establish it.
Whatever. Trump is so cute. He just says stuff, Like, I don't even know what he means most of the time, but I don't know. I like the sound of it.
National high-speed wireless internet network. Agreed. Continue to lead the world in access to the cleanest drinking water and cleanest air. Yes, please. Partner with other nations to clean up our planet's oceans. Yes, absolutely. Man, I've been talking about this stuff nonstop for years. Environmentalism, cleaning up the oceans, protecting our environment, clean air, clean drinking water, better technology, better infrastructure. Donald Trump's doing his best to get people like me to vote for him.
Is he going to go back into the Paris Accords? Is he going to invest in solar energy? Is he going to stop saying that windmills kill birds or cause cancer? His environmental platform, this is all he has to do, right? He just has to write down a couple words into his website to make Tim completely forget about everything that Donald Trump has ever stood for. Not just his past 4 years, but Donald Trump has been a villain and an enemy to environmentalism as long as he's been a public figure.
American first foreign policy. Stop endless wars and bring our troops home. You better do it. That's what I want to hear. Get allies to pay their fair share. Maintain and expand America's unrivaled military strength. Wipe out global terrorists who threaten.
Why didn't you do it yet, Tim? Can't you at least pose a hypothesis like, maybe the Democrats did something. I bet the Democrats did something. 4 years, 2 of which he had control of both chambers of Congress. He did not bring our troops back. He did not. He has not stopped any war. He's not de-escalated any military situation. Actually, he did this really awesome thing where he ripped up that Iran deal, and now they're going to continue pursuing nuclear weapons. So, yeah.
To harm Americans. Build a great cybersecurity defense system and missile defense system. Now I'll tell you what. We need a good military. Fine. I'm kind of meh on this. I'm concerned about American imperialism that comes along with zealous exceptionalism. But I love this country. I want to see it defended. I want to see an end to the endless wars. I do want our allies to pay for the defense we provide. But more importantly, we shouldn't be the world's police in the first place. So I will tell you this. Donald Trump has tried to return our troops from the Middle East. Yes, please. He tried to remove our troops from Syria. Do it. Get it done. That's the only reason I'm willing to support him for this. But I will tell you what. I believe that any rational American would look at this and say, yeah, look, I'm sorry, to a lot of people, maybe it's boring to read through Trump's agenda item list. But I'm like 90% there on what Trump is proposing right now. I agree. I have my concerns for sure. But I will tell you that with the Democrats' insanity, with the ongoing riots, with the endorsement of much of this violence, with these far leftists getting on board with the violence, I got to say, I will take Trump any day over these other groups. Now, here's what's really fascinating. Politico has a story called the Grand Old Meltdown. What happens when a party gives up on ideas? I've never cared for the Republican Party. Donald Trump is not the Republican Party. I don't know what he is, but he's doing his thing. And I got to say, the agenda list he put out, I like it. I like it a lot. For the most part, I love it. So when I saw this story, I kind of laughed. Yeah. Here it comes. Conventions 2020, and the Republicans have nothing to offer. That's what they say. The Republican Party has no ideas. All they want to do is own the libs. I thought about it. And then I saw the story about the GOP with no party platform, and I laughed. It's true. Trump is destroying the crony establishment. Let me give you a round of applause for that one. This is it. The GOP has no ideas.
I don't want to make the accusation that Tim is paid to do this. He might genuinely be stupid. He might genuinely have a situation with that beanie. Might be too tight around his head. I think a lot of your body cools off through the scalp actually. So maybe his body is overheated over time, and he just can't process it. Completely a party selling out to center around a man who's contrary to not only basic American political processes, but just democracy as a whole, right? To devote yourself to a man who has never stood for anything you have previously, but now he is in some minimal ways overlapping his own xenophobic nationalism with your own brain dead conservatism. That in those minor areas, you know what, that's enough. It's worth it just to keep the Democrats out of power. Now, that's not fair. A lot of Republicans are also xenophobic nationalists, so it was actually an easy decision for them. Completely selling out any prospect of having your own ideas for this country and how to address problems that people are facing right now in a crisis, and instead to wrap yourself up around a man who has continually failed the American people. Is that getting rid of the crony establishment, or is that just making them your bitch? When Donald Trump goes away, what's going to happen? Mitch McConnell's still going to be there, Tim. Kevin McCarthy is still going to be there. Lindsey Graham will still be there. And you know what? Even if you impose a term limit, I wouldn't be surprised if another one turned up to take their place.
Because Trump stormed in like a bull to the crony establishment, kicking and stomping, smashing everything. And we saw establishment Republicans run with their tails between their legs to the Democratic Party. And that's why we are seeing now all of these endorsements from Republicans for Joe Biden. Laughable. I don't like any of them. I don't like any of the Republicans. I don't like the Republicans or the Democrats for the most part. So when I hear the GOP has no plan, I don't care. I don't care. This means nothing to me. And maybe I'm just that independent voter that's leaning towards Trump today, but this means nothing to me. Let me read this for you. The writer says, I decided to call Frank Luntz. Perhaps no person alive has spent more time polling Republican voters and counseling Republican politicians than Luntz, the 58-year-old focus group guru. His research on policy and messaging has informed a generation of GOP lawmakers. His ability to translate between DNC and the provinces, connecting the concerns of everyday people to their representatives in power, has been unsurpassed. If anyone had an answer, it would be Luntz. Quote, I don't have a history of dodging questions, but I don't know how to answer that. There is no consistent philosophy. You can't say it's about making America great again at a time of COVID and economic distress and social unrest. It's not credible. You know what? Frank's right. It's because Donald Trump hasn't yet taken over the GOP. He's pushed out many of these individuals. But you know what? Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, get rid of them for all I care. I am tired of the establishment in general, and so are many Americans. It's time for something else.
At this point, I actually think it's time to sign off because I don't know. I do not know how to respond to that. Mitch McConnell has been with Trump every step of the way. Mitch McConnell has done nothing to obstruct Trump's agenda. Lindsey Graham, after John McCain died, has done nothing to stop Trump's agenda, has done nothing to hold him accountable, has done nothing to restrict his power. Donald Trump's failures come down to him. He was not a politician. He does not know how these systems work. He does not have the attention span, nor just the thinking capabilities to handle an office that deals with such nuanced things. and matters. If he has to decide if Arsenio Hall or Gary Busey will become the celebrity apprentice, I guess he can do okay with that. But you know what? Being president of the United States is a little bit more than that. And even through all the handholding that the GOP has given him, he can still not deliver on any of these. So you know what, Tim? If you want to get rid of Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham, fine, that's awesome. If you think that's going to get rid of the problem, if you think that's all that was ever wrong about the GOP and the state of politics right now, well, I hope the future is kind to you, brother, because I think you're going to find out some pretty fucked up shit about this country.